Welcome to my channel, where your adventure into the future starts right now. Step into a vibrant universe filled with groundbreaking technology, breathtaking alien landscapes, and exhilarating sci-fi narratives that challenge your imagination. From daring explorations of distant galaxies to haunting journeys through dystopian societies, we uncover the most captivating stories and innovative ideas that will shape the world of tomorrow. Subscribe today and join us on an incredible intergalactic voyage that promises to inspire and thrill. The galaxy had always been a vast, mysterious expanse, filled with wonders and dangers that few could truly understand. To the alien species that populated the stars, humanity was just another fledgling species, one among countless others, and its rapid expansion into space had piqued the curiosity of many. At first, most alien civilizations viewed humans with a combination of cautious indifference and mild amusement. To them, Earth's inhabitants were a young, brash species, still fighting amongst themselves, barely out of their cradle of origin, with an array of cultural and technological divisions that marked their civilization as chaotic and unpredictable. Yet, as time passed, humanity's actions began to speak louder than their words, and one truth became apparent to the more observant species: humans were not as predictable as they had once thought. They had a profound, surprising characteristic and unrelenting willingness to fight for other species, even those they barely knew. The first signs of this peculiar trait were visible during humanity's initial forays into space exploration. The first humans to venture beyond Earth were pioneers, often landing on distant planets, moons, and asteroids to claim new territories or establish colonies. Early missions were filled with the optimism of discovery, tempered by the harsh realities of space. But what most alien civilizations didn't anticipate was that these human explorers, driven by a sense of collective purpose and an innate curiosity, would begin to form relationships with the other beings they encountered. It began with trade. Humans, with their extensive history of exploration and resource extraction on Earth, quickly established themselves as resourceful intermediaries in the galaxy. They traded with various alien species, exchanging Earth's valuable minerals, technologies, and expertise for goods and knowledge that they could bring back to their home planet. During these early exchanges, humans were largely viewed as opportunistic, taking advantage of their position in the galactic network of trade. However, something else started to happen in the midst of these transactions. Humans began to show an unusual empathy and compassion for the creatures and cultures they encountered. One of the first such incidents occurred during an exploration mission on the distant planet of Ixos 7, a world inhabited by a species of large, amphibious beings known as the Rukari. The Rukari were a peaceful, aquatic species, living in vast subterranean oceans beneath their planet's surface. At the time of first contact, they had been engaged in an internal struggle to preserve their delicate ecosystem, which was being rapidly deteriorated by a toxic spill caused by an industrial accident from a nearby colony. The humans who arrived on Ixos 7 were part of a joint research expedition. Their initial goal had been to observe the planet's unique marine life and gather data, but they quickly realized that the Rukari were in desperate need of assistance. What occurred next was unexpected. Instead of merely observing or offering temporary aid, the human researchers insisted on using their technological and medical expertise to help the Rukari mitigate the spill and restore the delicate balance of their oceanic ecosystems. The Rukari, initially skeptical of the humans' intentions, had no choice but to accept their help when the human team presented a viable plan for cleaning up the toxic substances. What made this act particularly remarkable was that the humans had no direct stake in the Rukari's survival. They had no resource to gain, no territory to claim. There was no apparent benefit for the humans beyond the sense of moral obligation. The humans' willingness to fight for the survival of a species they barely understood and one that offered them no direct advantage shocked the Rukari, and by extension, the wider galactic community. This moment marked the first of many. Over the course of humanity's exploration and colonization efforts, humans encountered more and more species whose plight mirrored that of the Rukari. Sometimes, the humans would be in the position to offer technological assistance; other times, they would be in a position to provide humanitarian aid or offer military protection. In every instance, it became abundantly clear to the aliens observing humanity that these Earth-born beings were not like other species. They did not act out of sheer self-interest, as many species had come to expect from intelligent life. Instead, they displayed an emotional and ethical code that pushed them to act in ways that went beyond their own survival, even if they had little knowledge of the species they were helping. The most profound example of this occurred during the Vultures conflict. The vultures were a nomadic species of interstellar travelers who were constantly on the move, having no permanent home. They had made contact with humans shortly after humanity had begun to establish its first intergalactic colonies, but relations between the two species had remained distant for many years. The vultures were a proud, independent people, and they regarded humans with suspicion. To them, humans seemed to be a species always searching for something: territory, resources, allies, but not necessarily concerned with the well-being of others. However, when a massive war broke out between the vultures and an aggressive neighboring species, the Scarv, the vultures found themselves on the defensive. The Scarv were ruthless, highly militarized, and had an advantage in both technology and numbers. At the height of the conflict, as the vultures struggled to defend their people, a series of human fleets arrived unexpectedly. The vultures had not requested help from humanity, and in fact, they had not even been aware that humans had the capacity to launch a military campaign of such magnitude. The human fleets did not immediately engage the Scarv, but rather moved into orbit around Vulture's largest settlement. From there, the humans began deploying humanitarian assistance, providing medical supplies, food, and resources for the vultures who had been displaced by the war. When the vultures' leaders finally reached out to the humans, expecting to be told what price they would pay for such assistance, they were instead met with a simple declaration: the humans would fight for them, not for any territorial gain or future profit, but because it was the right thing to do. The vultures had expected an alliance with terms, a treaty that would benefit humanity. Instead, they found that the humans' intervention was purely altruistic. Humanity fought the Scarv not for any material gain, but because they could not stand by and watch another species suffer. This revelation rocked the vultures, and many other alien species took notice. Humans, despite their relatively young status in the galactic community, were willing to make incredible sacrifices for species they had barely known. They were willing to risk everything for those they saw as deserving of help. This realization was a turning point in human-alien relations. Other species, who had once been suspicious or outright dismissive of humanity's intentions, began to view them with a new lens. Many of the more established civilizations that had long held dominion over entire sectors of the galaxy now began to recognize that humans were something different. Where the logic of other species was driven by the cold calculus of self-interest, humanity displayed an emotional depth that often defied rational explanation. These traits were most clearly visible in moments of crisis, when humans were forced to choose between their own survival and the welfare of others. Time and time again, humans chose to fight for those who could not fight for themselves, even if it meant making sacrifices that had no direct reward. Perhaps the most dramatic demonstration of this principle came when a long-standing conflict erupted between the Kynalites and the Nepheri. The Kynalites, a highly intelligent, plant-based species, had lived in harmony with their world's ecosystem for millennia, and their society was built upon a deep respect for all life. The Nepheri, a technologically advanced and militarized species, had long coveted the Kynalite homeworld for its vast, untapped natural resources. They sought to strip the planet of its valuable minerals, and when the Kynalites refused to yield, the Nepheri responded with violent aggression. The Kynalites, unable to defend themselves effectively against the Nepheri's warships and advanced weaponry, reached out to the galactic community for help, but most species were hesitant to intervene in the conflict. When the human government learned of the Kynalite plight, they did not hesitate. A fleet of human ships, already stationed at nearby colonies, was dispatched immediately to defend the Kynalites. What followed was nothing short of extraordinary. Despite having no historical or cultural ties to the Kynalites, humanity's forces waged a brutal war against the Nepheri, suffering heavy casualties in the process. The Nepheri, initially confident in their superiority, were taken aback by the humans' relentless resolve. The human forces had no interest in annexing Canalite territory or exploiting their resources. They fought simply to prevent the genocide of an innocent species. The war lasted for months, and it ultimately resulted in a hard-fought victory for humanity and the Canalites. The Nephiri were forced to retreat, their war machines destroyed, and their soldiers defeated. What followed was an era of unprecedented cooperation between the Canalites and humanity, and a ripple of awe spread across the galaxy. The Canalites, who had once seen humans as little more than brash newcomers, now regarded them with profound respect. The Nephiri, though far more advanced in technology, came to understand that there was more to warfare than cold calculation. The humans had taught them a valuable lesson: the will to protect the weak, the innocent, and those in need could often overcome the most formidable of enemies. As word spread across the stars, more and more species began to take note of the humans' unique capacity for empathy and their willingness to fight for those they barely knew. In many ways, humanity's actions were shaping the future of galactic diplomacy, forging alliances and forming bonds based on principles of mutual respect and cooperation rather than mere survival or conquest. What many did not realize at the time was that this willingness to fight for others had deep roots in humanity's history. Earth had been a planet rife with conflict, yet it had also given birth to some of the most powerful ideals ever conceived: ideals of liberty, justice, and compassion. And these ideals had not been abandoned in humanity's expansion into the cosmos. They were alive and well, guiding humans as they navigated the complexities of their interactions with other species. It was the spark of that idealism that drove them to stand alongside the defenseless and the oppressed, no matter how alien the species or how unfamiliar the circumstances. In time, this characteristic of humanity became both their greatest strength and their defining trait. And for the alien civilizations that had once dismissed humanity as a passing curiosity, the realization that humans were willing to fight for species they barely knew would forever alter their perception of what it meant to be truly civilized in the galaxy.